This is Shel C from Paper Octio Studio. Today I'm sharing with you the art journal page I did for the Color Me Positive challenge this week. Color Me Positive is a group you can join on Facebook, and they give you a prompt and a quote and then a little challenge that you can do if you want to. This week the prompt was be brave, which is a good one. We all have fears about things, and so I liked it. And then the quote had to do with jumping off and building your wings on the way down, which I didn't end up using the quote. And then the little extra challenge is to use a silhouette. So I did end up doing that eventually. But my idea for the page was to show an open door with a very interesting, bright space that you might want to go out to, and then showing a person that's like contemplating going out there but is a little bit afraid. That kind of represents to me just sometimes I even have trouble going outside, but that's not really what I was trying to represent. It's more just taking that first step and going through the door to go out and see the possibilities. They're out there if you just want to take them. And you have to be brave to do that, to really just take a chance. And so that's what I was trying to represent with my illustration, and this is definitely an illustration. I am also being brave because I'm going to use my brand new pan pastels, which I've never used. I've never used a pastel in my life. I'm not trained in them. I'm not trained in any sort of art. I just make this up as I'm going along. So I got them for Christmas. I have one of those amazing Amazon wish lists. It's called Shel's Art Wish List. And when people ask me what kind of present I would like, I say, hey, I want art supplies. That's always what I say. And they say, what art supplies? And of course, these people don't do art, so they don't know what anything is. And I say, well, I have this wish list. It's on Amazon, and I can share it with you. So I did. And I got 2 sets of pan pastels. They are expensive too. These are very nice gifts. One of them is the portrait set, which has a lot of like skin tone and pastel type tints in it. And then the other one is called the painting set. And it has all the standard regular artist colors that you're used to. You know what they are. And they each have 20 pieces in them. And I got them at Christmas. It's now what, January 13th, and I haven't touched them. I'm afraid to even try because, everyone is afraid of failure. Everyone is afraid of having failed other people because they bought me these beautiful things and I don't know how to use them. And what if I am bad at it? What if I don't like them? What if I can't make them work? I don't have any idea how they work. I know that there's some tools and sponges and things, and I know that they are fantastically blendable. I've watched other people's videos briefly. I haven't watched very many, but I should watch some more. But you know what I'm saying. Be brave. Get the darn things out. Use them on the page. See how they work. So this, and then as if that's not good enough, share your entire situation with the video with the world and show everyone. That's brave. That's brave right there. Showing everyone. Pass or fail. So that's what I'm doing. I've got my door drawn and I'm now drawing the outside. I've got my girl. She's got her hand on the frame. She's like, should I go out there? Should I do it? I don't know. Maybe. And this is my illustration. I drew that in a soft graphite pencil, and I have my eraser. Apparently you can also erase pan pastels, and I need to get a different eraser. I decided like one of those more crumbly ones to do it, I think, because mine didn't work that well. So now I'm getting out all the pastels. You see, I'm opening the boxes for the first time. They're in little stacks, which I think would be really great to travel. But what I found as I was doing this, and as you're watching the video, you will see, I spend way too much time unscrewing those things, trying to find the colors. Like, where's the color I want? I need it to be laid out. So I've seen other people, and they seem to have them in trays. So I'm going to go look for trays to put them in, and then maybe I'll make a cool tray and a warm tray. I'm not sure. But that's my next step, because having them in these little containers, I don't have enough space on my desk to just spread out all 40 of them. And besides, that would, I'd probably end up knocking them off and breaking them and whatever. So I definitely need those tray things that I know that Pan Pastel must make, because I've seen people with them. Also, these came with tools, which I thought when I put them on my wish list, I thought they were just the pastels, and so I had on my wish list an additional tool set that has all different types of things, and I got that too. But there's already tools in it, so I didn't open it yet. But I think it would be nice to have different ones that are for different colors, color families. You know what I'm saying? Like have a blues and a greens and an orangey yellows and a reds. You know what I'm saying? So I will get that all organized at some point. I like the tools. Um, this They're spongy, and that's me trying to erase right there. I'm trying to put a little warm light coming in the door, like, hey, look, girl, you should come out. Look, it's sunny out. So I was trying to erase, and my kneaded eraser didn't work very well. But I know that you can erase them, so I'm going to have to get a different type of eraser. Anyway, what was I was saying? Oh, I was saying that the tools. I like the tools. Some of them kind of look like they might be a cosmetic sponge, but they're not. They're dense. They're compressed type of sponge, and so I don't really think it's going to wear out. Like a cosmetic sponge wedge type thing, you use it a couple times and then it starts to break apart. Little pieces start to come off of it, and you pretty much have to either trim it or throw it away. These aren't going to do that. I think these are like a different type of sponge. And then there's two different types of, I guess I would call them brushes. You see those blue things that I'm using, and there's one that has a very flat tip, like a flat brush, and then there's one that has a rounded tip, and then there's little spongy things that go on them that fit either the round or the flat. I think the one that I'm going to like is the one that's like a flat brush, because I can draw it down wide and it makes a long, wide, straight thing, or I can use it on the tip and make a very narrow line, just like a flat brush. If you have ever used a flat brush, you know what I'm talking about. I like that one. The other one is more like a round brush, and so it does have a tip, but not very pointy. But I've seen other ones, which maybe you remember I said that I got that other kit of tools. There might be a pointy one in there, and that might be really useful too, but I didn't get it out yet. But I really liked the flat one, and then I liked that thing that looks like a cosmetic sponge. I could draw a very straight line, like when I went right down the side of the door to make the shadow. That was cool to be able to just draw it right down like that. And then I also did it like I tried using it in a circular motion to blend, and it didn't do that as well. So I think that the blending, if you wanted to blend a large area, you need to use that big oval sponge thing that I had at the very beginning. But that one's not going to be very accurate for making a straight line along an edge or something like that. So I can see why there's a lot of different tools. It's definitely not a one tool fits all thing. And these all came with it. And then there's these little tiny ones that I use when I color the girl that are like eyeshadow applicators. They're just like eyeshadow applicators. So hopefully the brush or the sponge end on them won't wear out. And I also figured out that I don't need to have one for every single color. Although that would be cool, but you'd be switching them on and off, on and off. So you'd have to have a little stick for every color, which would be probably time consuming just looking for the stick. So what I figured out is I can just rub them off on my underpaper there, and the color comes off, and then it doesn't touch, that color doesn't go on the paper the next time. So you can basically use the same brush and just like I will keep it within the color families or within the cools and warms or whatever. Like I got out 3 different ones and kind of used the yellows and oranges together, and I used the blues and darker greens together, and then the more neutral tones I used with a different one. But mostly I can just write it right off on my paper there, and it cleans it enough that the color doesn't come off the next time you use it. So I'm having fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm going in with different neutrals and adding shadow, and then going back over it again with light, which works. Um, since this is my first time using it, I haven't decided, do I want to go light to dark or dark to light with shadows and highlights. I'm not sure. I had trouble finding the different tones that I wanted to use for skin. I kept looking. I don't know. I thought maybe there was a logic to the way they were stacked. I don't think there is. Because I had like that phthalo blue at the bottom of that stack of the very pastel tints. So not sure what was up with that, but anyway, you can see that the biggest problem I'm having, excuse me, is just finding the color I want. Having to unscrew them to find the color I want. So I think once they're in trays, that will make a lot more sense, and I'll be able to look at the entire color palette and say, okay, I'm going to use this color, rather than unscrewing and trying to find something that I think will work. I started out thinking that her dress was going to be blue, but then I changed my mind and decided it was going to be purple because there's blue out in the sky there. I thought it was too matchy. So I'm changing it to purple, but I'm having trouble finding the purple. I know it's there somewhere. Oh, I found my black, so I decided I was really going to deepen up the shadows around her feet and along the floor there. I want it to look dull inside, like you really should go out into that bright, pretty area and not stay in here in this dull gray place. So I was trying to make it look pretty dark inside. Although on the one side I do have a light source. Because it would be dark, and you can't have shadows along things if you don't have a light source. So I did have that lighter um, titanium buff, and then the probably that's a saffron yellow, I'm guessing, up in the corner. It might have been an ochre, I'm not sure. I didn't look at the colors. I'm assuming they are the colors of regular artist colors. I need to do a lot more research. Probably the smartest thing I did, I thought, was to realize that that glass in the door would have a reflection on it. And adding the colors onto it, that made a huge difference once I did that. Because otherwise, that whole door would have just been kind of a white instead of being a panel door with windows. It gave it a lot more interest. So I think I'm coming to the point where I'm starting to decide that I'm done with the pastels for the moment. And I'm going to, no, I'm not. I'm still working on her hair, but I'm going to end up making it really a scratchy, illustration-y look to it by using my black and white Posca pens. And that should be coming up pretty soon. I didn't want real clear lines. I wanted it to be scratchy. So I do use my ruler to make the basic lines of the doorway and the door. But then after that, I do it all by hand and kind of hit and miss, scratchy looking. Oh, before I do that, I guess I'm going to seal it. That makes sense. This is Spectrafix, and this is what everyone has recommended because it is non-toxic and you can use it inside. Any other sealers that I have to take things outside because it's too stinky. And you don't want to be breathing those fumes. So this one is non-toxic. It doesn't have any stinky smell or anything. It has a little bit of a smell, but it's just kind of smells, I don't know. I think maybe they put flower smell or something in it. I don't know. But it's not very strong. And I think that it worked great because then when I went in later to do my title, and I was erasing the pencil lines, my pencil guidelines, it didn't erase the pastel. So it definitely works. And I guess the reason that you need to seal pastels is because they can kind of rub off. I felt like there was some stuff coming off on my arm. As in fact, as I'm looking at it now, there is a little bit of that darker gray color on my arm because my hand and arm is going over the paper as I'm doing it. But there wasn't a bunch of dust. I didn't have to blow anything off. Um, the only other time that I've had any experience with any type of a pastel is actually chalks. And we had those with, when I was a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, we had them for coloring, and it was a set of chalk that you could use with like a little sponge applicator or a Q-tip to color in your stamped designs. And those had a ton of powder that was, every time you use them, you had to blow them off. And this had none of that. So I think it has a binding agent, maybe some type of an oil in it that helps it bind to the paper. But ultimately, you could rub it off. So sealing it, especially if you're going to do mixed media, sealing your layer before you move on to the next thing. And I am planning on using it for mixed media. I'm planning on, trying it with acrylics, trying it with putting different layers of things. And so I'm happy that I got that sealer. So now I'm just adding my illustration lines. I mean, you guys can see what I'm doing. I don't really need to explain it. Scratchy, scratchy, not solid lines. Just giving hints of highlights and shadows and a very illustration type of a look. So now I'm going to add my title and my quote. I read the quote online, but it didn't have anybody attributed for saying it, so I didn't add that. But it does make sense what it says. But first, I'm going to put be brave, and I am being brave because I'm writing right onto the page. I'm not typing and cutting out a quote and collaging it on. And I don't care for my own handwriting, and it's dangerous for me to write directly onto a page because I misspell things. And then what do? Now you've just written, you've done this entire page and now you've just written something on there that's misspelled. Because I'm just not very good at spelling. I think that a lot of creatives have that problem. I've seen many, many other people do that on their videos. Oh, whoops, I misspelled it. So I started out by writing in pencil, and then I went over it with my fine tip black Posca and drew the lines, and then I thickened the downstrokes to try to make it look like a font kind of. And then after that I decided I wanted to go around it with white just to make it stand out a little bit more. So I went around the entire edges with white. And now I'm writing again in pencil, and I didn't put guidelines to make me write straight either. That's another problem I have, is that my writing slants down. But I think I managed it. And then I'm going over this with the black Posca. It helps if you try to write slower. My normal writing, like if you were to see a note from me or something, is barely legible because I just write so fast. When life gives you something to be afraid of, that's when life gives you a chance to be brave. Okay, now I'm deciding I need my silhouette for one thing, and I also need some more interest. So I decided to make a little silhouette of a cat, his back facing and looking out the door as well. So I just sketched it in with a little bit of pencil and then colored it in completely black with my Posca pen. And then I decided that I needed something else, and so I drew in some branches to my tree and a little bird in a nest for another little character of the illustration. Very bravely drawing it without the pencil. Now I'm erasing my pencil lines, and as you can see, the color didn't come off. So I guess the Spectrafix fixed it. And then just my finishing touches to color in the branch and the nest and the bird with the pastels. Trying to find the color I want. There it is. Phthalo blue. And then doing my little white highlights, and then I'm going to use a couple colored Posca pins. This is the red, and I'm adding some little dot berries onto the bushes that are along the path there. And then I'm adding a few little yellow dandelions in the grass. And some leaves on the tree. And then that will be it. I hope you enjoyed this, my first foray into using pan pastels. And if you did like it, leave me a comment or a suggestion or whatever. If you really like it, share it, subscribe, all those things. And here are your close-ups. Thanks. Bye-bye.